Sharicia, am His Majesty's only princess. Since childhood, I've been the most unrestrained young lady in all of Linen City. Just a few days after my coming of age ceremony, my carefree life was struck by a thunderbolt. Father Emperor issued an imperial edict, betrothing me to Ethan Shun, the Marquis of Dingbei. Who is this Ethan Shun? They say he's a bloodthirsty demon who slaughters countless on the battlefield. He's the iron-faced general who strikes fear into the hearts of enemy troops. Me? Marry him? Isn't that just sending a lamb straight into the tiger's den? What if we quarrel and come to blows someday? Out in the remote frontiers, far from the Emperor's reach, on his own turf. I probably wouldn't even have time to call for help. I might not even be able to lay a finger on a single strand of his hair. No chance of winning. Truly, not the slightest chance at all. How could anyone accept such a fate? I simply cannot let myself marry such a dangerous stranger. Fuming, I rushed straight to the doors of the imperial study. I saw Crown Prince Brother emerge from the grand hall with a sickly pallor. I hurried forward, grasped Crown Prince Brother's hand, and asked urgently, "Crown Prince Brother, what did Father Emperor say?" Crown Prince Brother sighed and shook his head helplessly. "Ninger, I've already pleaded with Father Emperor, but his mind is made up. The Emperor's word is final. There's no room for reversal in this matter now. I'm sorry, Ninger, I did my best. I'll prepare extra dowry to compensate you." Though he said so, I still couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that Father Emperor, who doted on me since childhood, would send me to marry far away. I wiped the tears from my face and choked out. "I don't believe it. I'll ask Father Emperor myself. Does he truly mean to marry me off to the northern lands?" As soon as I stepped into the hall, Father Emperor waved me over, gesturing for me to approach and sit beside him. I stood my ground stubbornly, tears welling in my eyes, and challenged him with a stiff neck. "Father Emperor, are you truly determined to send Ninger to such a distant place? Aren't you afraid that once Ninger leaves, we may never see each other again in this lifetime?" Father Emperor walked toward me with heavy steps. He looked at me with a complex expression, guilt and reluctance overflowing in his eyes. "Ninger, Father Emperor is also reluctant to let you go, but what can be done when you were born a daughter of the royal family? If there were a choice, Father Emperor would keep you by my side, and we wouldn't go anywhere." Father Emperor said that the Shun family has guarded Dingbei City, a key fortress in the northern lands, for many years. Ethan Shun is now an indispensable general of our dynasty. Dingbei City is also surrounded by tribes like the Shihu tribe, who our dynasty with covetous intentions. My marriage to him, first, demonstrates the imperial family's grace, and second, strengthens the ties between the court and him. This is the duty I have borne since birth as a princess of this nation. With tear-filled eyes, Father Emperor drew me into his embrace and sobbed. "I still remember when your mother passed away. Father Emperor held you in his arms, and you were as tiny as a kitten. Ninger, you are Father Emperor's most cherished treasure. He is more reluctant to part with you than anyone else. But Father Emperor is not just your father alone. He is also the sovereign father to the people. Do you understand? Father Emperor is a good emperor praised by all his subjects. He diligently attends to state affairs every day, solely to ensure the eternal prosperity of the nation, gazing at the frost, like white at his temples and the plea in his eyes. I could no longer selfishly refuse Father Emperor. I had no choice but to swallow my grievances and agree to this marriage. On the day of my wedding, Linen City was extraordinarily bustling. The citizens spontaneously lined the streets to bid me farewell. Father Emperor and Crown Prince Brother prepared a dowry of the highest standard for me, fearing that I might struggle to adapt to life in the northern lands. In addition to the matron and maidservant who had raised me since childhood, Father Emperor also assigned me the imperial kitchen's chef and the head of imperial medicine from the royal hospital. The grand wedding procession stretched as far as the eye could see. The moment the carriage set off, my heart swayed unsteadily along with it. Father Emperor and Crown Prince Brothers' faces grew increasingly blurry, finally shrinking to a tiny dot, vanishing behind us. From now on, this bustling Linen City would only be a hometown Sherisia could gaze upon from afar in her dreams. The more I thought, the more tightly my heart clenched with grievance. Bottling up a belly full of resentment inside the carriage, I cover my mouth, unable to hold back my sobs. After leaving Linen City, the procession headed northward. Dingbei City was truly far away. We hurried along for nearly a month, finally arriving at the borders of Dingbei City. I was so exhausted my bones felt nearly unhinged. Looking around in all directions, all that met the eye was desolation. There were neither the bustling streets of Linen City, nor the lush greenery I was familiar with, only endless earthen slopes and swirling dust carried by the wind. I couldn't help but mutter to myself, "Good heavens, is this even a place fit for human habitation?" The wedding procession was halted at the city gates. After negotiating with the guards, the captain of the guard approached my carriage. "Your Highness, the Marquis of Dingbei requests that you alight and enter the city on foot with him." I was puzzled. "Why is that?" "Your Highness, the Marquis says the common folk have lined the streets to welcome you. Walking into the city together would better demonstrate the royal family's unity with the people." Rubbing my sore lower back, I scoffed coldly. "In all our dynasty's history, there has never been a precedent for a princess to dismount and walk on her wedding day. Summon Ethan Shun here. I want to see what kind of intimidation tactic he has prepared." Soon, a deep voice resonated outside the carriage. "Marquis of Dingbei, Ethan Shun, here to escort Her Highness." The maidservant lifted the carriage curtain. I saw the man standing like a pine tree beside the carriage, his brows sharp as a broken blade, his pupils cold as frozen marrow. His raised hand showed distinct knuckles, with thick calluses covering the base of his thumb. Ethan Shun was unlike any other man I had met in Linen City. He carried the wild aura and killing intent of someone long-tempered on battlefields. Before I realized it, I found myself staring at him in a daze. Noting my prolonged silence, Ethan Shun frowned slightly and said with neither humility nor arrogance, "Your Highness, please proceed." I composed myself, yet remained seated motionless in the carriage. With my eyes still red and swollen from crying, I fixed my gaze on him and declared, "Ethan Shun, I ask you, how long would it take to walk from here to your residence?" "At fastest, the time it takes for one incense stick to burn." Ethan Shun lifted his eyelids. "At slowest, half an hour. Making me walk for a full hour in this state would be worse than killing me. I've had a particular flaw since childhood. When exhausted, my stubborn temper tends to flare up." I let out a derisive laugh and snapped fiercely. "After traveling for days to get here, not only do you show no consideration, but you expect me to walk for a full hour. Ethan Shun, are you trying to drill and discipline me like one of your soldiers in the barracks?" Ethan Shun shot me an expressionless glance. He then swept a look over the long line of attendants behind me and spoke impatiently. "TSK, royal princesses really are delicate treasures. This princess is indeed a delicate treasure. So what of it?" The two of them remained deadlocked, neither willing to back down first. Matron Zhang, my dowry attendant, had always understood my temperament well. Seeing the situation, she hurried over to smooth things over. "Marquis, the princess is a cherished jewel raised by His Majesty and has never known hardship. The long and arduous journey has indeed tired her out. This servant boldly begs the Marquis to show understanding. If the Marquis insists the princess disembark, perhaps you could carry her into the city yourself. What does the Marquis think?" Ethan Shun's brows instantly furrowed into little mountain peaks. He looked me up and down, disdainfully muttering the word pampered. After saying that, he scooped me up from the carriage in one swift motion. He strode forward, heading straight into the city. I was startled by his sudden movement. Instinctively, my hands hooked around his neck. He glanced at my hands, looking at me with a faint, teasing smile. I snapped back to my senses, quickly pulling my hands away and retorting stubbornly, "Humph, it's all your fault. If you hadn't suddenly pulled me, I wouldn't have been so frightened." Ethan Shin said nothing. He suddenly gave a sharp shake to the arm wrapped around my waist. Startled, I hooked my hands around his neck again. Ethan Shin flashed a smug, gloating smile. "TSK, such a scaredy cat. I shot him an annoyed glare and punched his chest twice. It was rock hard. Not only did I fail to hurt him,
but my own hand turned red from the impact.
I couldn't help but snap angrily. Ethan Shun, you jerk. He raised an eyebrow, his expression full of mockery. Oh my, so delicate. Your hand's already red. For now, since I was at his mercy, I decided to let it slide temporarily. Ethan Shun had lost both of his parents. The wedding rituals after entering the mansion were considerably simplified. After sharing the nuptial wine with me, Ethan Shun prepared to take his leave. I grabbed his sleeve abruptly and asked blankly, Ethan Shun, where are you going? His dark eyes deepened, his tone still detached. I'm going out to attend to the guests who came for the banquet today. After all the commotion today, I feel rather sticky all over. Matron Zhang and the maidservant Luna Lan had only just entered the mansion with me today. They were still unfamiliar with all the affairs of the household, uncomfortably shifting.
I commanded him.
This princess feels unwell and wishes to freshen up properly. Fetch me some hot water. Ethan Shun glanced at me with amusement and chuckled softly. The princess truly is quite troublesome. Mocked by him repeatedly, my grievances swelled instantly. I couldn't help but retort, Ethan Shun, since you look down on me so much, why don't you have the guts to break off the engagement with my father emperor? Do you think this princess wants to be in this wretched place? Exhausted and despised, what am I even gaining? As I spoke, my tears fell like broken strings of pearls, streaming down uncontrollably. Ethan Shun panicked for a moment and hastily called for hot water to be brought. Leaving behind a promise to return later to dine with me, he slipped away like oil under his feet. In the side chamber, Matron Zhang tirelessly instructed me on many matters for tonight. Princess, I sent Luna Lan to discreetly inquire among the manor servants. The Marquis has never had any concubines or other women by his side, so it seems this matter between men and women is his first experience too. He looks like a rough fellow to me, probably clueless about tenderness. Princess, you must not indulge his whims. The Marquis is at that vigorous age. If he lacks restraint and hurts you, it would be terrible. Matron Zhang specifically dug out a few volumes of erotic art manuals from the dowry chests. He even had the nerve to seriously explain each volume structure and key points to me in detail. Before long, the content made one blush with embarrassment. Luna Lan shyly covered her ears and ran outside to wait. I casually stuffed the booklets back into the matron's arms and said angrily, Matron, take these away. Take them away. This princess refuses to learn such things. Why should this princess learn these? If anyone must learn, it should be that Ethan Shun. If he can't master how to serve properly, then he shouldn't even think about stepping into this princess's bedchamber. I couldn't stomach the food from the northern lands at all. Plus, my mind was still preoccupied with what Matron Zhang had said. I absent-mindedly pushed my chopsticks around, barely touching the food in my bowl. Noticing my lack of appetite, Ethan Shun proactively added several dishes to my bowl and said meaningfully, Princess, eat more. They don't appreciate Linen City's delicate appetites here. If word gets out that the bride went hungry on her wedding night, it would become quite the laughingstock. People would say that the mighty Jinbei Marquis estate can't even feed one young woman properly. I can't bear such shame. From our first meeting until now, he hasn't spoken two kind words to me. The anger that Matron had just barely soothed earlier flared up once more. I slammed my chopsticks down, eyes growing warm with unshed tears, and huffed angrily. This princess has no appetite. I won't eat anymore. Ethan Shun clearly hadn't expected such a strong reaction from me. Realizing his words had been improper, he spoke awkwardly. Princess, the northern lands are nothing like Linen City. I, Ethan Shun, am a rough man. Marrying me has wronged you. The imperial marriage decree came from His Majesty himself. I cannot annul it, nor would I dare to. I have only one younger sister at home. Lihan has no sense of propriety, and the estate lacks a woman to manage it. If anything has been lacking today, I beg your forgiveness. Princess, from now on, all matters in this household, large or small, shall be decided by you. Seeing that I remained silent, his tone softened further. The northern lands suffer from constant drought, and harvests are poor. In years of disaster, many commoners go hungry. I simply can't bear to see food go to waste, which is why I spoke so hastily. Please don't be angry with me, princess. Since you've just arrived in the northern lands, you must be unaccustomed to the local cuisine. Tomorrow, I'll find a chef who specializes in linen dishes. All right, hearing his explanation, most of my anger had already subsided, but I still couldn't bring myself to show him a pleasant expression just yet. Humph, in your eyes, Ethan Shun, is this princess really such a petty person? Who needs your fake kindness? I have my own chef and couldn't care less about yours. Ethan Shin raised an eyebrow, chuckled, and teased. Yes, the princess is certainly not petty at all. Why? Even the entourage you brought could nearly rival one of my vanguard battalions. His words were truly irritating, and he was even mocking me in such a roundabout way. I shot him an annoyed glare and deliberately turned my head away. Refusing to look at him, he took the leftover food from my bowl, devoured it in 2 or 3 ravenous bites. After finishing, he blurted out, "I'm going to bathe first," and turned to enter the side chamber. The sound of splashing water soon came from within. I sat uneasily on the couch, my heart pounding like a drum. Matron Zhang and Luna Lan had lit incense around the bed, the same kind I often used in the palace. Exhausted from days of travel, the fragrant smoke lulled me into drowsiness. Before Ethan Shin even emerged, I had already collapsed onto the couch and fallen into a deep, heavy sleep. In my haze, I felt the bedding dip beside me, as if someone was drawing near. Ethan Shin looked at the woman sleeping soundly and couldn't help but feel a surge of irritation. His eyes swept around the room. He noticed his bed was strikingly different from usual. The curtains were now adorned with many items typical of a lady's chamber. A faint, delicate fragrance continuously wafted into his nostrils, seeping into his heart and lungs. Ethan Shun took a deep breath, and a restless heat stirred in his chest, tossing and turning for what felt like ages. He couldn't summon even a hint of sleep. To make matters worse, Sherry Xia beside him was a restless sleeper. She tugged at his clothes a few times, her inner robe half undone. The tantalizing sight of her snow-white skin struck Ethan Shun's eyes directly. He had never been with a woman before. The alluring view stirred his blood, sending heat rushing through him. His atoms apple-bobbed as he swallowed hard. The thought that this was their wedding night crossed his mind. Ethan silently reasoned with himself. A general on the battlefield couldn't just stand by and do nothing. So, he pulled the fragrant woman into his arms and murmured softly, "Princess, aren't we going to consummate the marriage?" Awakened from a sweet dream, I irritably raised my hand and swatted. A sharp slap rang out. It seemed to have hit his face. I've always been lax when sleeping. Right now, I couldn't even be bothered to open my eyes. Half asleep, I simply went along with what he said. Her tone carried a hint of the willful arrogance she once displayed in the palace. I'm so tired. You handle it yourself." Ethan Shun's eyes glimmered as he leaned close to my ear, whispering temptingly, "My dear wife, you said it yourself. Then your husband will take the initiative." No sooner had he spoken than his scorching lips pressed against mine, beginning their conquest. The flimsy, silken fabric was torn to shreds in an instant, leaving nothing between us. A pair of rough, calloused hands wandered recklessly over my body, stirring desire. It made me shiver uncontrollably, soft whimpers escaping my lips from time to time. Ethan Shun truly was just as Matron had described. He was a clueless, impulsive novice. Before long, he readied his eager weapon, prepared to charge straight in. Pain shot through me. I quickly opened my eyes, whimpering as I raised a hand to stop him. "It hurts. How can you be so reckless?" Ethan Shun was panting heavily, sweat beading on his forehead, his gaze dark and intense. "Then, what must this husband do, my dear wife, to ease your pain?" His blunt words made my cheeks flush crimson enough to bleed. I turned my face away, awkwardly, murmuring softly, Haven't you studied the erotic art manual before?" This husband's mind was always occupied with military campaigns and battles. Truly, I never learned such things. As he spoke, he pressed his body deeper against mine. His large hand guided mine downward, finally resting on a place throbbing with heat. His voice seemed tinged with a hint of grievance. This husband doesn't know how. My dear wife, teach me, won't you? I beg you. I feared Ethan Shun's reckless, untutored actions might harm himself, but I had no desire to be his instructor in such matters. Seizing the moment he was distracted, I kicked him off the bed, tossing the erotic art manual left by the matron toward him. I stammered, "You figure it out on your own, slowly. If you can't learn it, you won't be allowed on this princess's bed." With that, I wriggled deep into the blankets. Rolling over, I wrapped myself in several layers, firmly cocooned at the foot of the bed, hiding my pounding heartbeat and burning cheeks, afraid they might be noticed. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Ethan Shun returned to the bed. He crept stealthily under my covers. His hands moved with gentle pressure, caressing and teasing my body slowly, sending waves of tingling pleasure through me. I've mastered it, my dear wife. Please test my skills. Ethan Shun truly was a remarkably quick learner. He soon grasped all the essential techniques from the erotic art manual, growing bolder with practice. He even began to improvise and innovate. Under Ethan Shun's fierce assault, I retreated step by step, utterly overwhelmed. In the end, I had no choice but to surrender, murmuring incoherently as I yielded to his every whim. But this man only grew bolder, his words becoming increasingly unrestrained. "Isn't that right, my dear wife? My dear wife. How well did I learn? Are you satisfied? My dear wife. What do you think of this new battle formation I just devised? My dear wife." I half squinted my eyes, opened my mouth, and bit down hard on his shoulder. "Shut up." But I regretted it immediately after biting him. Ethan Shun let out a muffled groan, his movements growing even more reckless. He tossed and turned me about for what felt like an eternity. He even forced me to utter many shameful, nonsensical words. After calling for water 3 times in a row, I was utterly exhausted. I raised my hand to push him away, pleading incessantly, "No more. You, get out now." But Ethan Shun grabbed my wrist and flipped me over. My hands were pinned above my head. Something unusual pressed against me from behind, and I froze instantly. "How can you?" Ethan Shun breathed hot whispers in my ear, his voice hoarse. "Can you feel it, my dear wife? One last time." All right. The next day, I woke leisurely only when the sun was high in the sky. My entire body ached unbearably, as if run over by a carriage. Bruises of blue and purple covered my skin. Matron and Luna Lawn watched with pained eyes, their tones chiding. "That Marquis truly is an uncouth brute who doesn't know how to be gentle. Look what he's done to our princess." Exactly. Did the Marquis think he was battling the princess? She's covered in wounds. Recalling last night's passionate entanglement, my cheeks instantly flushed hot. I adjusted my collar self-consciously. "Where is Ethan Shun?" Luna Lawn chimed in eagerly. "The Marquis left early this morning and hasn't returned yet. Before heading out, he specifically instructed us not to disturb you, saying you were exhausted." Rubbing my sore limbs, I muttered darkly to myself, "How dare you, Ethan Shun, devour me clean and then slip away without a second thought. Just wait until I catch you. This princess will show you no mercy." Yet, after resting in the manor for 10 days, I hadn't even caught a glimpse of Ethan Shun. According to the news Luna Lawn brought back, Ethan Shun had been staying at the military camp in the suburbs all these days, to abandon his new bride the very day after the wedding. That's not something a decent person would do. The gossip, loving servants in the manor whispered among themselves, saying the imperial princess from Linen City had failed to win Ethan Shun's favor. The matron couldn't help but worry and cautiously asked me, "Princess, should we go to the camp to find the Marquis?" Clutching my handkerchief tightly, I gritted my teeth and said, "Humph, Ethan Shun has humiliated this princess. It's time to settle this score with him." Stepping out of the carriage, I stormed into the military camp with fierce determination. Before I could reach the entrance of Ethan Shun's tent, a young woman stopped me. She appeared to be around 12 or 13 years old. Crossing her arms, she looked me up and down with disdain. "Oh, so you're the princess from Linen City? You don't look like much. Skinny as a twig. Haven't you been eating? Watch out. A strong breeze might just blow you away." Luna Lan was furious and stepped forward to defend me, but I pulled her back. I stared calmly at the woman and said coldly, "How dare you? Who are you to speak to this princess in such a manner?" Unfazed by my words, the woman smiled contemptuously. "I'm Leah Shun. Even if you marry my brother, neither he nor I will like you. Even if you flaunt your princess status to bully others, I won't acknowledge you as my sister. In law." I straightened my posture and retorted, "Who says Ethan Shin doesn't like me? If my brother liked you, why would he stay at the military camp for half a month? Let me be frank, my brother already has someone he loves. If it weren't for the royal family forcing this match, he would never have married a delicate, spoiled princess like you. Ethan Shin staying at the military camp already made me lose face. Now, I'm being publicly mocked by Leah Shin on top of that." Anger surged in me, and I snapped fiercely. "What gives you the right to call me delicate?" Leah Shin burst out laughing. "On the day of the grand wedding, my brother carried you all the way from the city gates back to the mansion. The whole city saw it. You can't deny that, can you? Women of the northern lands all prove themselves with real skill. Not like you women of linen, weak and useless. Good for nothing at all," I retorted. "Who says we're useless? Don't believe me? Let's compete then." Leah Shin looked at me meaningfully. "Fine. In half a month, there's a horsemanship competition in the camp. Does the princess dare to compete with me? If you win, I'll do whatever you say. But if the princess loses," before she could finish, I cut her off. "Bring it on. Do you think I'm afraid of you? This princess will not lose." Seeing I'd taken the challenge, Leah Shin flashed a triumphant smirk and ran off. "Then I shall await the sight of the princess's grace." After Leah Shin walked away, Luna Lan looked at me timidly. "Your Highness, you've never learned to ride a horse. What are we to do?" Luna's words struck my heart like a heavy stone. Right, I've never ridden a horse before. I truly let Leah Shun's taunting get to my head. But the words are already out. Spilt water cannot be gathered. If I withdraw from the competition now, it would only give Leah Shun grounds to mock me and make others look down on me even more. This concerns the dignity of the royal family. I absolutely cannot do that. Stealing my heart, I declared, "Come, let's go find Ethan Shun." We arrived at Ethan Shun's tent. I stopped the guard from announcing me and charged straight in. "Ethan Shun, get out here this instant." The tent fell into dead silence. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances, their eyes darting back and forth between me and Ethan Shun. I froze too. I hadn't expected there to be others in his tent at this moment. Ethan Shun sighed helplessly, rubbing his forehead before waving a hand to dismiss everyone. The attendants bowed to me one by one before filing out, clearly eager to avoid any crossfire. Ethan took my hand and guided me to sit, his arm around me. "What brings you here today, my dear wife?" His question only reignited the fire in my heart. I shoved him away and snapped fiercely, "This is all you're doing. You vanished for half a month without a trace, leaving me the subject of gossip. Now, even the servants mock me as a bride who fails to please her husband. Ethan Shun, you've ruined this princess's good reputation." Ethan leaned in, encircling me with his arms, and said softly, "My fault entirely. I shouldn't have buried myself in military affairs and neglected you, my dear wife. I humbly beg your forgiveness." I swatted his head away and shot him a glare. "Don't think a few sweet words will earn this princess's pardon? Not a chance." Ethan rested his head against my neck and murmured, "Then what must I do to ease your anger, my dear wife?" I blurted out, "Then teach me to ride." Ethan Shin looked puzzled. "My dear wife, why the sudden interest in learning to ride?" I told him all about the bet I made with Leah Shin. After hearing it, Ethan frowned, clearly disapproving. "Nonsense. Leah grew up on horseback, and you don't even know how to ride. How could you possibly win against her? I'll go talk to her and cancel this competition between you two. I pouted and glared at him. Ethan Shun, are you out of your mind? I made a public declaration, and now you wanted to back out at the last minute. Where would that leave my dignity as a princess? Where would that leave the honor of the royal family? Even if I can't win, I'd rather lose on horseback than be laughed at. Ethan gently patted my back to soothe me. All right, it was my fault. I underestimated my dear wife. Within half a month, I promised to teach you how to ride. Will that do? I shot him a glare. That's more like it. Ethan Shun lifted me up and sat me on his lap, a smirk playing on his lips. Since you're asking to be my apprentice, my dear wife, shouldn't you offer a sincere apprenticeship gift? My eyes widened in shock. What apprenticeship gift? Ethan Shun tapped his index finger against his lips, giving a devilish smile. Give me a kiss. In broad daylight. Ethan Shun, you have no shame. Then I won't teach you. I doubt you'll find a better master than me around here. My dear wife. Furious, I punched his chest a few times. Taking advantage of the empty tent, I quickly pecked his cheek like a dragonfly skimming water. Ethan Shun rubbed his cheek, looking unsatisfied. My dear wife, that's not sincere enough. What would count as sincere? Then, let me show you, my dear wife. He gripped my waist, leaned in, and pressed his scorching lips against mine. After the kiss, I squirmed breathlessly. Ethan Shun, now, will you finally take me out horseback riding? Ethan Shun's grip on my waist showed no sign of loosening. Instead, he pulled me closer, whispering, "Don't squirm." Just then, an undeniable, alarming heat pressed against my hip, and I cried out in shame and anger. Ethan Shun, you shameless scoundrel. Ethan Shun held me tight, chuckling softly with infatuation. It's been days apart, and just hearing your voice, my dear wife, has me like this. It misses you desperately, just as I do. My dear wife, have pity on me. Let me catch my breath, won't you? Seeing I stayed silent, his hands grew even bolder and more restless. By the time I changed into riding attire and stepped out, my cheeks were still flush crimson. I huffed and kicked Ethan Shun lightly in annoyance. He wore a deeply satisfied smile, his expression intriguing as he murmured, "You're so good to me, my dear wife." Ethan Shun led me to the riding grounds. He selected a relatively gentle, tempered horse for me, guiding me carefully onto the saddle. He repeated again and again, "Keep your back straight, look ahead, hold the reins firmly, and keep your feet in the stirrups. Relax your hands and the reins. Don't be afraid. In a moment, squeeze the horse's sides with your legs and let it start moving slowly." Ethan Shun first led the horse, taking me around for 2 laps. As I gradually got used to the feeling of being on horseback, Ethan Shun suddenly blew a whistle, and the horse began to run. Startled by the sudden change, I lost my composure. I cried out in alarm, "Ethan Shun, I'm scared." Ethan Shun leaped onto another horse and quickly caught up. "My dear wife, don't be afraid. I'm here with you. Hold the reins tight and grip with your legs." Under his reassurance, I gradually relaxed. The horse also obeyed and began to run. After several days of close instruction from Ethan Shun, my riding skills were basically passable. That day, I sat on the horse's back, feeling the wind whistling past my ears. An unprecedented sense of exhilaration welled up from the depths of my heart. "Ethan Shun, look, this princess has learned to ride a horse." Seeing my smug expression, Ethan Shun curled his lips into a smirk and swept me onto his horse. With a shout of "Giddy up," the horse galloped toward the distant hills. Ethan Shun rode with me to the crest of a faraway slope. Before us stretched an endless, vast desert. The setting sun cast its golden rays across the great wilderness. Brilliant fireworks streaked across the horizon. Unbidden, a line of ancient poetry surfaced in my mind. Lone smoke rises straight over the desert vast. The sun sinks round beyond the long river. I couldn't help but tilt my head back and sigh to Ethan Shun. "Ethan Shun, the sunset here is truly beautiful." Back in Linen City, I had never witnessed such a magnificent and breathtaking scene. Ethan Shun's smile reached the corners of his eyes, his chest pressed against my back as he held me tighter. Then I shall often bring my dear wife to watch the sunset from now on. All right, but I must say, my dear wife, you are even more beautiful than the sunset. At that moment, I could almost hear my own heart pounding thunderously. I turned away my flushed face, deliberately letting my fallen strands of hair veil my gaze. Ethan Shun buried his face in the crook of my neck, his breath scorching, teasing, "My dear wife, why so quiet?" I deliberately put on a stern face, raising my elbow to nudge him. "Ethan Shun, you're so annoying." Amidst the squirming, Ethan Shun's weapon stood at attention once more. I was so frantic I nearly cried. How can you be so shameless?" Ethan Shun chuckled deeply. "How can you blame me? It's all because my dear wife is too beautiful. I simply can't help myself. It's broad daylight, and we're outside. Ethan Shun, don't you dare act recklessly. Since my dear wife insists we mustn't act recklessly outside, but at home is fine. Let's return to the manor at once." After returning to the manor, the moment he helped me off the horse, I dashed away. I couldn't bear to spend another moment with this man. Ethan Shun's hearty laughter echoed from behind me. It was only during my morning wash that I noticed. Today, I'd been so preoccupied with dealing with Ethan Shun, I hadn't even realized the skin on my inner thighs had been chafed raw. The tender flesh stung sharply as water touched it, making me hiss in pain. Seeing this, Ethan hastily fetched some ointment and began applying it for me. But as he rubbed it in, his hands started wandering with unmistakable mischief. I straightened up and kicked him to the ground. "You stink. Get away from me." Ethan tilted his head to sniff his own armpit. "Do I? Where?" I shot him a disgusted glare. "From now on, if you haven't bathed, you're not setting foot on my bed." Ethan stood up, ruffled my hair, and sighed helplessly. "So finicky. When we're on military campaigns, we go 2 weeks without a single bath." Grumbling under his breath, he stomped into the side chamber. In less time than it takes to drink a cup of tea, he emerged shirtless. His hair tips still dripped with water. Beads slid down his sharply defined waist and abdomen, vanishing into shadowed depths. The sight made my cheeks burn and my mouth go dry. Ethan Shun pulled me tightly into his embrace. His lips met mine with scorching heat. His large hands slowly traced upward along my slender waist. Soon, the ties of my inner robe were tugged loose by him. He buried his face, lingering obsessively at the snow-peaked summits. At the critical moment, I suddenly came to my senses. I raised my hands to push against his chest, shoving him away. "Stop." Ethan Shun's face fell like frostbitten eggplant, pleading pitifully, "My dear wife, do you know that calling a halt with the troops at the city gates can torment a man to death?" I squirmed uneasily. I tried to break free, but found myself utterly trapped, muttering under my breath with little conviction. "My legs hurt, and their hurts too. You were far too demanding last night." After a brief standoff, Ethan Shun was the first to yield. His words carried a hint of compromise. "So delicate, always tormenting me. All right, I let you off for tonight." I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking I could finally sleep in peace. But Ethan Shun still didn't release me. Startled, I widened my eyes to look at him. He whispered temptingly in my ear, "My dear wife, since you started this fire, shouldn't you help your husband put it out?" As he spoke, he guided my hand from his firm abdomen downward. The flames burned too fiercely, refusing to be quenched for a long time. Ethan Shun's heavy breaths lingered by my ear. Blushing, I turned my face away. After what felt like an eternity, my hands grew sore, and I whispered shyly, Are you done yet?" Ethan Shun let out a low chuckle, his voice husky. "My dear wife, we've only just begun. How capable your husband is in battle, my dear wife knows best. Once the fighting ceases, every inch of me ached, without even the strength to lift my eyelids." Ethan Shun called for hot water and gently bathed me. In my dazed state, I was drawn into a scorching embrace and fell into a deep slumber. On the day of my competition with Leah Shun, Ethan Shun helped me into my riding attire, hesitating before saying, "My dear wife, perhaps we should call off today's match. Leah is just childish, spoiled by my indulgence. Once you spend more time together, it'll be fine. I shook my head, shooting him a dagger, like glare. No, this concerns my dignity as a princess. How could I retreat like a coward? Ethan's shin quickly softened his tone to coax. Very well, my dear wife is mighty. Then I shall cheer you on from the sidelines. Leah Shun's horsemanship surpassed mine, and she soon overtook me. She turned her head triumphantly, taunting me loudly. Princess, do you yield? Will you admit defeat now? It seems the women of Linen City are truly delicate flowers. Haha, I've always been one who can't resist a challenge. The more triumphant Leah Shun became, the more determined I was not to fall behind her. I raised my hand, pulled out the hairpin from my hair, and stabbed it into the horse's back. Stung by the pain, the horse bolted uncontrollably, suppressing my fear. I tightened my legs around its belly. Soon, I overtook Leah Shun. She cursed under her breath. You're insane. In the end, I crossed the finish line a step ahead of Leah Shun, but the horse showed no sign of stopping. Instead, it galloped faster and faster, charging forward wildly. Panicked, I could only cling desperately to the reins and resign myself to fate. Seeing this, Ethan Shun spurred his horse and raced toward me. In one swift leap, he vaulted onto my horse. His arms encircled mine as he seized the reins. After his efforts, the horse finally came to a halt, though it was a false alarm. Dismounting left me utterly shaken with lingering fear. Ethan Shun's face darkened as he scolded sharply. Sharicia, are you trying to get yourself killed? If I had been even a moment later, your life might have ended right here today. Tears spilled uncontrollably from my eyes. Biting my lip, I looked at him with a wounded expression and shouted, Ethan Shun, I was scared to death just now, and you're yelling at me? With that, I turned away angrily and started to leave. As I walked, I wiped at my tears, but somehow, no matter how I tried, the tears just wouldn't stop. Ethan Shun let out what sounded like a resigned sigh. He strode after me, took my hand, and softened his tone. All right, I was wrong just now. His voice was low, tinged with a placating warmth. I shouldn't have snapped at you. Please don't cry, okay? Head bowed. I stood where I was, unwilling to respond. Ethan Shun lifted his sleeve to wipe my tears. I was just worried sick. A mad horse's hooves don't watch where they're going. What if you'd gotten hurt? You know how hard it was for me, Ethan Shun, to finally win a fairy, like beauty like you. If I lost you, where on earth would I ever find another wonderful person like you? I knew I'd acted impulsively earlier and muttered sullenly. Then will you still scold me? Ethan Shun bent down and gave me a deep bow, then lightly slapped his own cheek. My dear wife, your husband was wrong. I'll never dare do it again. I kicked him in annoyance. If there's a next time, you'll be sleeping in the study. Ethan Shun hurriedly stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me, whining pitifully. That won't do. Your husband can't bear to be apart from you for even a day. My dear wife. I laughed through my tears and glared at him. You're impossible. Everyone's watching. Behave yourself. I won the match. But Leah Shun looked utterly unconvinced. You cheated. I don't accept this. I looked at her with a half smile, adopting a proud tone. What, haven't you heard that all's fair in war, whether you accept it or not? I won today. Are you trying to renege on our bet? Leah Shun pouted and went to Ethan Shun to plead her case. Brother, look at her. How could she do this? You have to be the judge of this. Ethan Shun stroked his chin and said seriously, a bet is a bet. Everyone here saw that the princess beat you fair and square. You have to accept it. Besides, the princess was raised delicately in the palace and never learned horseback riding. In just half a month, she not only learned but also defeated you. She's put in no less effort than you. From now on, don't cause her any more trouble, or I won't go easy on you. Leah Shun was left speechless. Gritting her teeth, she gave me a deep bow. Princess, please accept my respect. I concede defeat and am at your service from now on. I bent slightly, helped her up, and said with a light smile, at ease, you are the Marquis of Dingbei's sister. From now on, we are family. Leah Shun whispered in my ear, don't celebrate too soon. Even though you beat me, I never said I'd accept you as my sister. And Law, the only one I'll ever call sister. And Law is older sister Tanya. Humph. After paying her respects, Leah Shun left, but her pointed words planted a thorn in my heart. Ethan Shun held me close and said gently, "My dear wife, pay her no mind. She's just a child. Leah's nature isn't bad. In time, she'll come to appreciate your virtues." I shot him a sidelong glance. "Oh, then tell me, what virtues do I possess?" Ethan Shun tilted his head thoughtfully and replied slowly, "Delicate and soft in every way. Utterly perfect." A flush of embarrassment warmed my cheeks, and I pounded his chest in flustered fury. "Ethan Shun, you shameless scoundrel. The competition with Leah Shun made me an overnight sensation in Dingbei City. Everyone in the mansion and the city's residents were buzzing about this matter. People treated me with utmost respect, and the previous gossip completely vanished. Ethan Shun spent all his time sticking to me aside from his inspections at the military camp. This man was like an insatiable wolf. He was always obsessed with studying new military formations with me all day long, night after night, without rest or sleep. I truly trained more diligently than the soldiers in Ethan Shun's camp. Sometimes, I couldn't even straighten my back when getting up in the morning, yet the instigator remained completely unaffected. This gave Ethan Shun the perfect opportunity to tease me. He often joked about how delicate and soft my physique was. This guy really deserved a good beating. But no matter how angry I was, I couldn't defeat him in bed. To protect my weary body, I followed the matron's suggestion. I sent Ethan Shun out of the mansion and made him stay at the military camp for 10 to 15 days. Ethan Shun held the luggage I had packed for him, clinging to the door frame with a pitiful look. "My dear wife, are you truly willing to abandon your husband and leave me alone in this empty chamber? The nights are so long. How can you bear to let me suffer lovesick torment in the military camp?" The servants in the mansion now follow my orders. With a single glance from me, several attendants stepped forward and escorted Ethan Shun out of the mansion. Without my permission, no one is allowed to let him back in. Leah Shun, concerned for her brother, came to confront me. I looked at her calmly and said, "Losers have no right to speak. Say one more word, and I, the princess, will send you to keep him company." Though Leah Shun is willful, she had no desire to endure hardship in the military camp. In the end, she could only leave in a huff. With Ethan Shun, that tormenting nuisance, gone from the room, I slept exceptionally soundly every night. Unfortunately, my peaceful days didn't last long. Trouble soon found Ethan Shun. One day, as I was taking my afternoon nap, Leah Shun rushed over in a panic and yanked me to my feet. "Princess, the situation is critical. Please, stop sleeping." Bewildered, I squinted at her with half-closed eyes. "Leah, why are you so flustered? What's happened?" Tears welled up in Leah's eyes as she stammered incoherently. "There's trouble at the military camp. My brother's fate is unknown. The deputy generals are away on patrol and haven't returned. There's no one left in the tent to take charge and steady things. Princess, I've come specifically to beg for your intervention. Rest assured, after this, I'll treat you like my own ancestor and serve you devotedly." Hearing this, my heart jolted violently. I changed clothes swiftly, instructing Luna Lawn and the matron to summon the guards. "Leah, don't panic yet. Let's talk as we walk." It turned out that Ethan Shun's personal guard camp had been infiltrated by a spy from the Shihu tribe. Despite multiple investigations by Ethan and his trusted aides, the spy had never shown any signs of suspicion. Then, taking advantage of several key deputy generals being away on patrol, the spy poisoned the army's cooking pots. Ethan Shun and half the camp soldiers were poisoned. All poisoned individuals are currently unconscious. Ethan's subordinates have only determined that the spy was hiding among the cooks. They haven't yet identified exactly who it is. When I entered Ethan's tent, I was met with a chaotic scene. Everyone was arguing endlessly without reaching any conclusion. The noise was giving me a headache. So I roared, "Silence, all of you." The tent fell instantly silent. I scanned the room and said, "Can someone tell me what the most urgent problems in the camp are right now?" The subordinates exchanged glances and sent a representative to answer, reporting, "Princess, there are 3 major issues. First, all cooks have been detained until the spy is identified, who will prepare meals for the troops. Second, since we don't know if the poisoning was part of a larger plan, should we recall the patrol commanders? Third, the military physicians have yet to identify the exact nature of this poison, making targeted treatment impossible. We fear that any further delay could endanger the lives of the Marquis and our soldiers." The man wiped cold sweat from his brow, bowing his head anxiously. "The poisoning of our commander is no trivial matter. If word spreads, it could destabilize morale, and delays may invite unforeseen troubles." Running through all the issues swiftly in my mind, I spoke calmly. "Seal all news of the Marquis's poisoning immediately. Anyone who leaks this will face military justice." I brought imperial chefs and 3,000 attendants as part of my dowry. Until this is resolved, they will oversee all camp meals. The Shihu tribe's wolfish ambitions cannot be ignored. Recall the deputy generals at once to take charge of camp affairs. Dispatch a messenger with my token to summon imperial physicians from this state for an emergency consultation. Stay calm, everyone. The sky will not fall. I stand with you through this crisis." Hearing this, the assembled men knelt and kowtowed in unison, proclaiming, "We await your command. Princess, long live the princess." Leah Shin also knelt tearfully with the crowd, prostrating herself and shouting, "Long live the princess." I helped her up and addressed everyone. "Please rise. Everyone, carry out the orders swiftly." Leah Shin looked at me with a guilty expression, choking back sobs as she said, "Sister-in-law princess, thank you. I was willful and unreasonable before. Sister-in-law, your righteousness and the life-saving grace you showed my brother and the soldiers, I will never forget it." Ethan Shun was right. Leah Shun had just turned 13 this year. She was a child, and a good one at that. One who knew how to correct her mistakes. I held her in my arms and comforted her gently. "Good child, sister-in-law doesn't blame you. Back in the day, throughout all of Linen City, you couldn't find a girl more headstrong than your sister-in-law." Leah Shun's sadness turned to joy as she buried her face in my embrace, acting coy. "Sister-in-law, you're so kind." By the time the imperial physician arrived at the tent, a female military doctor had also come to Ethan Shun's bedside. Though dressed in plain garments, her elegant grace remained unmistakable. I heard Leah Shun familiarly call her older sister Tanya. So this was the one Leah Shun had spoken of, Ethan Shun's beloved, Tanya Lin. Because of this, I paid extra attention, observing her discreetly from the side. I couldn't tell if it was just my impression, but I noticed she treated Ethan Shun no differently from the other soldiers, as if he were merely an ordinary patient to her. Perplexed, yet unable to straightforwardly ask her, just as my thoughts were in turmoil, an opportunity presented itself. That day, as I was about to enter the tent,
Tanya Lin stopped me.
She twisted her fingers nervously, stammering, "Princess, this humble girl has an impertinent request. Might your highness consider it?" "I speak freely. Miss Lin, I am listening." The matter of Ethan Shun's poisoning had not spread or caused wider impact. After examination by the imperial physician, the cause of poisoning and the antidote method were identified. Camp affairs also returned to normal under the deputy general's management. The Shihu tribe spies were rooted out. We followed the clues and uncovered the Shihu tribe's conspiracy. The deputy general led the soldiers in turning the enemy's scheme against them, successfully crushed the Shihu tribe rebels who intended to cause chaos. Dingbei City was once again calm and peaceful. The tension of the past several days finally eased for a moment. Yet a weight still hung heavy in my heart. Ethan Shin still showed no signs of waking. Gazing at the motionless man lying in bed, no matter what sweet words I whispered in his ear, he remained unresponsive. Bottled up grievances and frustration made me burst out cursing. "Ethan Shun, you big jerk. Where's all the energy you usually use to bully me?" "Wah, It's all your fault. I haven't had a decent night's sleep in half a month because of you. You know how delicate I am. If you don't wake up soon, I'll divorce you. I'm leaving for Linen City immediately. I'm never coming back to this wretched Dingbei city again. Before I go, I'll arrange for Yenta to be your concubine. You like her, don't you? You two can live happily ever after. I sobbed and cursed between hiccups, my vision blurred by tears, completely unaware that the person on the bed had already opened his eyes. A faint, weak voice reached my ears. How dare you? At first, I thought I was hallucinating and glanced around. Then, my gaze crashed into a pair of eyes on the bed, bright as if holding a sky full of stars. Unbelieving, I rubbed my eyes and widened them. Ethan Shun, you're awake? Woo-woo, you're finally awake. Do you have any idea how terrified I've been because of you? If you hadn't woken up, I was going to divorce you and return to Linen City. Woo-woo, days of pent-up grievances and fear instantly collapsed, pouring out all at once. I threw myself onto him and burst into loud, heart-wrenching sobs. Ethan Shun realized he had frightened me terribly. He gently patted my back, soothing me in a soft voice. It's all right now, my dear wife. Don't be afraid. Your husband has a hardy fate. Even the king of hell wouldn't dare claim me yet. The news of Ethan Shun's awakening spread through the army like rain after a long drought. The generals wept with joy. The soldiers' morale soared even higher. Ethan Shun learned everything that had happened during his coma from his deputy general. After the deputy left, he held me with a pained expression. My dear wife, you've suffered greatly these past days. This is all my fault, making you worry and exhaust yourself for me. I leaned into his embrace, fiddling with his collar, and said softly, these days have indeed been exhausting, but standing with the soldiers through thick and thin has taught me much. To be honest, when Father Emperor first ordered me to marry into the northern lands, I held resentment in my heart. But while studying the army's morale in your tent, I came to understand my duty as a princess of this nation. Truthfully, I was afraid too, but I couldn't show it because I am the princess, their pillar of strength. Thank heavens for watching over you, you rascal, or I truly feared. Ethan Shin ruffled my hair, his chin nuzzling into the crook of my neck. My dear wife is the bravest. She is the finest princess in all the world. Rest assured, my dear, your husband will never let you live in fear again. Recalling our first meeting, when he wore that sour expression, I couldn't resist teasing him. Humph. On our wedding day, the Marquis still complained that this princess was too delicate and pampered. Now you say such things. Doesn't the Marquis find himself contradicting his own words? Ethan Shin took my hand in his large one, lightly patting his own face twice with it, chuckling sheepishly. My dear, look, this foolish mouth of mine truly deserves a beating. Now that you've punished it, please don't stay angry with your husband anymore. All right, I reached out and pinched his cheek hard. You scoundrel. Then shifting the topic, Ethan Shun, that day I said so much, yet you never woke. The moment I mentioned taking Miss Lin as your concubine, you woke right up. Seems you truly adore Miss Lin. I'll hurry and arrange this for you. Hearing this, Ethan Shun hastily propped himself up, defending himself. My dear wife, don't talk nonsense. Yun Tao and I are purely like siblings. She's the daughter of my father's sworn brother, essentially my uncle. Before my uncle went to battle, he entrusted her to my care. After they fell in war, I gained a sister. I swear, I truly see Yun Tao only as a sister, just as dear as Li Han. Besides, my heart already belongs to someone. There's no room for anyone else. Me. Oh, then I'll pack early and make space for your beloved. Ethan Shen grew frantic, his eyes reddening as a tear fell. My dear wife, you are my beloved. In this lifetime, I'm sticking with you. Don't even think of running away. I desperately tried to suppress the corners of my mouth, but they finally curled up again uncontrollably. Ethan Shun, you finally admitted it. Then this princess has avenged your initial disdain for me. Actually, I knew all along. Tanya Lynn only has sisterly affection for Ethan Shen, not the kind of liking between a man and a woman. That day, Tanya Lynn came to find me. The reason was she wanted to study medicine with the imperial physician accompanying me. The northern lands are not like Linen City. Here, there are few doctors and many patients. Most of Tanya Lynn's medical skills came from studying medical texts and figuring things out on her own. The imperial physician's superb skills during Ethan Shen's poisoning opened her eyes, especially since the palace physicians are among the finest in the entire nation. For her, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, she specifically came to beg me to allow her to apprentice and learn the craft. Tanya Lynn has a healer's compassionate heart and cares deeply for the common people. I will certainly do my utmost to support her. But Li Han's earlier words made me uncertain. What exactly was Ethan Shen thinking in his heart? I needed a definite answer from his lips. That was all. Ethan finally realized I was teasing him. He leaned down to look at me, his eyes sparkling with amusement. Then he pulled me close, his warm breath brushing my face. His voice was tender and lingering. My dear wife, you deceived me tonight. You must make it up to your husband properly. I pretended not to understand. How should I make it up? I followed his gaze downward, finally stopping at that unmistakable, pressing bulge. Ethan chuckled softly, his voice enticing. My dear wife, look, we both miss you. Let's attend to the matter at hand first. Under the deepening moonlight, lovers remained together forever.